Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that really does touch so many lives, often quietly social anxiety and shyness.
Mhm.
That whole cascade of physical discomfort, emotional stress. Our mission today is to go beyond just naming it.
Right.
We want to dissect the mechanisms, understand how it works, and really importantly, look at a pathway to recovery, drawing on this great expert guide from the Overcoming series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic
It feels like
messaging.
a shortcut, to getting well informed and feeling a bit more empowered.
That's exactly it. This isn't just about sticking labels on things. It's about um, peeling back the layers, understanding how these very common challenges actually work.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who's ever felt kind of alone in this, or maybe even ashamed, this guide offers a genuine lifeline. We want you to leave feeling not just informed, but with real practical insights.
Okay, great. So let's unpack this then. The source material, it mentioned similarities and differences between shyness and social anxiety, but often uses social anxiety as the main term.
It does, yeah, it's the sort of umbrella term.
So to kick us off,
Yeah.
what does this actually feel like for someone going through it? How does it show up?
Well, the crucial thing the guide points out is that it's not just one single feeling. It's more like a tangled web.
Uh-huh.
You've got bodily reactions, heart pounding, maybe feeling dizzy, blushing, that awful tension, sometimes even feeling breathless.
Right? Physical symptoms?
Exactly. And then the emotions, fear, apprehension,
Mm.
being intensely self-conscious, often frustration too, or feeling, inferior.
And these things aren't separate.
No, that's the key. They feed each other.
Mm-hmm.
The guy has this brilliant example. Thinking you look foolish makes you feel self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So you look away and try to fade into the background, which makes you aware that you are trembling and your heart is thumping. See?
Mm-hmm.
It's a cycle.
Wow. Yeah, that really paints a picture of how fast it can spiral. It becomes self-reinforcing.
Totally.
So how does shyness fit in then? What makes it distinct?
Well, shyness definitely shares a lot of those discomforts, the physical feelings, the awkwardness. But a key difference, for some people anyway, is that shyness can be more of a passing thing.
Passing how?
Like, it might show up strongly in childhood or maybe adolescence, but then it kind of fades. Or sometimes, even in a specific situation, a shy person might just need a bit of a warm-up period.
Ah, okay. So after that initial hurdle.
Exactly. After they warm up, they might experience very little anxiety. And this is really important. The guide stresses that shy people often aren't less attractive or less intelligent or less competent.
But they might think they are.
Precisely. That internal belief is a huge part of the struggle, even if it doesn't match reality.
That's a really powerful distinction. Okay, so the guide also tackles a common mix-up. Performance anxiety, or stage fright, being the same as social anxiety.
Right. They're related, but not identical.
Can you elaborate? Especially that interesting point about actors?
Sure. Performance anxiety is usually tied to wanting to do well when something important is on the line. Your own judgment of your performance can often matter more than what others think.
Yeah.
Stage fright is a specific kind of that sudden, sometimes paralyzing fear right before or during a public performance. But here's the fascinating bit.
Yeah.
Many actors, musicians, public speakers, people who seem totally confident on stage, can still be quite shy or socially anxious in other situations, off stage, basically.
How does that work?
They can often hide it while they're in role. The role itself acts like a shield, a kind of protective mechanism. So being a great performer doesn't automatically mean you're comfortable in, say, a casual party setting.
That really highlights the nuances, doesn't it? It's not just one thing. So if it's not always about performance, where does social anxiety actually stem from? What are its roots, according to the guide?
Well, the guide explains that our very first social lessons happen at home, in the family.
Makes sense.
That's where we learn the basics. What's okay, what's not okay, what makes us feel loved or maybe rejected. These early experiences profoundly shape our beliefs and assumptions about what other people think of us. They really lay the foundation.
So if those early messages, those home experiences aren't so positive, what's the impact of what the guide called negative messages?
If judgments during childhood were, say, too harsh, too all-encompassing, or too unremitting, that's the guide's phrasing, then individuals can start to feel rejected, inadequate, or unacceptable. This deep feeling then leads them to fear that their actions will reveal underlying weaknesses, even if those weaknesses aren't objectively real.
Wow. So they start avoiding things to hide flaws they only perceive.
Exactly. It creates this deep-seated fear of exposure.
I can absolutely see how damaging those early judgments could be. Are there other factors, maybe outside the home, that contribute?
Oh, definitely. One big one is simply lacking the right opportunities to learn social skills.
How
Well, if you don't get the chance to practice interacting in different settings, the guide uses the example of knowing how to behave in a disco, versus at formal dinners, you're at a disadvantage. Social rules aren't innate, you learn them by doing.
Right. You need the exposure.
And then there are actively bad or traumatic experiences. Bullying is a huge one mentioned.
Yeah, sadly.
Being teased for a characteristic that one could do nothing about, like having freckles or big ears or acne or for being overweight, that kind of thing can be incredibly damaging.
It really sticks with you.
It does. And interestingly, even being singled out for supposedly positive reasons can make someone feel different, like a misfit. The underlying message often feels like we don't want you or you don't belong here.
That feeling of not belonging seems central. And the guide also notes that life just keeps throwing new social challenges at us, right? Things that can undermine confidence later on, too.
Absolutely. Every life stage brings new demands. Getting a promotion might mean managing former peers or presenting to senior people whose opinions feel very public. Becoming a parent brings a whole new social world. These things can stir up old vulnerabilities.
Okay, so we've got a sense of what it feels like, where it might come from, but what keeps it going. The source mentions this Clark and Wells model from '95, focusing on vicious cycles.
Yes, this model is really helpful for understanding why social anxiety persists. It breaks down how it maintains itself.
So what are the key parts of these cycles?
Okay, first up are negative automatic thoughts, or NATs. These are those quick, almost reflexive thoughts. Sometimes they're even images that just flash into your mind.
And trigger feelings.
Exactly, strong feelings. Things like, I'll look foolish, or they must think I'm stupid, or, oh God, this is a disaster. The guide mentions a woman who'd get anxious. Seeing an image of her uncle teasing her years ago brings it all back.
Wow, so they can be really potent. What do people do then when these thoughts hit?
That leads straight to the second part. Safety behaviors. These are the things people do to try and protect themselves, to prevent the feared outcome.
Like what?
Things like mentally rehearsing what you're about to say over and over, or speaking slowly or very quietly, maybe hiding your hands or face, avoiding eye contact, or deliberately not talking about yourself or your feelings.
But the guide says these are counterproductive.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the critical insight. They feel like they're helping, but they actually stop you from learning the truth.
Ow.
Because you never find out if your fear was justified. If you always rehearse, you never learn you could have spoken spontaneously. If you hide your hands, you never discover nobody would have noticed them trembling anyway. You don't get to test the negative prediction.
I see. So they prevent disconfirmation of the fear. Okay, what's the third element? Self-consciousness, the engine driving it.
Exactly. This is about turning your attention inward. Focusing intensely on your own physical sensations, heart thumping, feeling hot, voice shaking, and your own thoughts.
And that's a problem because
Because it gives you misleading information about how other people see you. You feel intensely anxious inside, so you assume it must be obvious externally.
Gotcha.
The guide tells the story of James at his girlfriend's parents' house. He missed a joke, felt incredibly foolish, and was convinced they were laughing at him.
Oh, they weren't.
His girlfriend later said no one had noticed anything at all. His internal feeling completely distorted his perception of the external reality.
Wow. Okay, so NATs, safety behavior, self-consciousness. Is there something underlying all of this?
Yes, the fourth component, underlying beliefs and assumptions. These are the deeper, often unspoken rules for living that shape how we see everything.
Like core beliefs about oneself or the world?
Precisely. Think of Rachel in the guide, who believed you shouldn't put yourself forward. Because of that belief, she sat alone in the canteen. And what did that confirm for her? Her assumption that other students don't like her.
So the belief led to behavior that seemed to prove the belief right. Another cycle.
Exactly. Or Tony, who believed, if I was okay, people would keep in touch. So he'd hang back at the pub, reinforcing his own feeling of being odd and weird. These beliefs act like filters.
It really is an intricate internal system. And the guide mentions that while shyness is universal, how it shows up can vary culturally.
It does. The rates differ. The guide mentions studies showing about a third of young adults in Israel reporting shyness compared to nearly two-thirds in Japan, And while it seems to affect men and women equally often,
Yes.
men often develop more strategies to conceal it, maybe because it's sometimes seen as less acceptable for men in certain cultures. Hiding behind work roles, for example, and people of both sexes might use alcohol to try and ease social interactions.
Interesting cultural layers there. Okay, so if these are the cycles keeping people stuck, the goal, as the guide says, is to break them, not necessarily get rid of all anxiety.
Right, some anxiety is normal.
But to stop these cycles, it outlines 4 main ways to do this. Let's get into those strategies.
Okay. The first method is all about changing thinking patterns. And the very first step is simply find out what you are thinking.
Becoming aware of those gnats.
Exactly. Those negative automatic thoughts, the images, the underlying beliefs. The guide suggests using key questions like, what was the worst thing that might have happened in that situation? Or what does this experience mean about you?
Okay, so identify the thoughts first. Then what?
Then you actively start questioning your upsetting thoughts. This means challenging those thinking errors, those cognitive biases we talked about, like mind reading. I know they think I'm boring. Or catastrophizing. This will be a total disaster.
Looking for evidence against the thought.
Yes, and looking for alternative explanations. Challenging those pressurizing thoughts like, I must be witty, or extremist thoughts like, nobody likes me. Because honestly, are they really 100% true?
Probably not.
Right. So the guide encourages thinking in terms of maybe people aren't judging me, or behaving as if, act as if I'm just as good as they are underneath. It helps take the pressure off.
Okay, challenging the thoughts. What's the second method? Doing things differently. Sounds action-oriented.
It definitely is. This is about deliberately giving up safety behaviors and avoidance.
Ah, tackling those counterproductive habits.
Yes. The approach is through small experiments. You design little tests to see if your feared outcomes actually happen.
So not aiming for perfection, but for data collection.
Exactly. The goal isn't to do things right. It's to see if the fears are justified. Maybe the experiment is looking people in the eye for a bit longer, or saying what you actually think on a minor topic, or consciously relaxing your hands instead of hiding them.
That sounds potentially scary.
The guide acknowledges that. This is often the hardest step and the one that feels most risky at first. You're essentially dropping your defenses.
Makes sense. Okay, which leads nicely into number 3, reducing self-consciousness. How do you tackle that internal focus?
The core strategy is to consciously direct your attention onto other things. The guide uses this lovely phrase, learn to lose yourself to find yourself.
Shifting focus outward.
Precisely. Focus on what is happening around you. Really listen to what others are saying. Observe their reactions, their body language, instead of guessing what they might be thinking based on how you feel inside.
How do you practice that?
One technique is the two-way experiment. Deliberately focus inward for a minute. Notice your heart, your breathing, your thoughts. Then shift your focus entirely outward for a minute. Maybe notice details in the room. Really listen to ambient sounds. Observe people in a queue. Then compare how you felt and what you noticed in each mode.
Ah, experiencing the contrast.
Yes. And the guide shares some helpful observations from others who've done this, like symptoms of social anxiety feel worse than they look. Most people do not notice much about what others do, and crucially, practically no one is completely happy with the way they are.
That last one is kind of comforting, isn't it?
It really is. It normalizes things. This section also brings back the idea of behaving as if you're confident. Act the part, even if you don't feel it initially. Why? Because people tend to take you at your own estimation.
Fake it till you make it, essentially.
Sort of. But it's more about how your outward behavior can influence both how others perceive you and how you start to feel internally. Okay, fourth method, building confidence.
How does this differ from the others?
This is about actively seeking out success to build a foundation of positive experiences. One way is through altruistic activities, volunteering, community projects.
Why does that help?
Because when you're focused on helping others or a shared goal, you often forget themselves and their anxiety more easily. Plus, it builds connection. Another way is doing enjoyable things with unthreatening people.
And acknowledging the wins.
Absolutely crucial. Acknowledging achievements no matter how small they seem, and actively challenging those thoughts that try to downgrade your success.
Like thinking, oh, anyone could do that.
Exactly. The counter thought is, maybe, but not if they felt as anxious as you did while doing it. Giving yourself proper credit is key.
These are really concrete strategies. The guide also mentions persistence, pacing, and that medication can sometimes play a role alongside these techniques.
Yes. It emphasizes that progress isn't always linear. Small changes happen. Sometimes you forget them, so tracking progress can help. And managing anxiety is tiring.
Yeah, it's
So
exhausting.
balancing the effort with enjoyable, relaxing activities is important. And yes, for some people, medication discussed with a doctor can be a helpful tool alongside these psychological strategies. It's not either.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's touch on some related skills and challenges the guide brings up. It links social anxiety to assertiveness, but says they aren't quite the same thing.
Right. Many people who struggle with social anxiety also find assertiveness difficult, mainly because they fear negative judgment or rejection if they speak up.
But not everyone who isn't assertive is socially anxious.
Correct. The goal of assertiveness, as the guide puts it, is finding that middle ground.
Hmm?
Neither feel controlled nor have the need to control others. It's about mutual respect and flexibility.
And a big part of that is saying no, which can be incredibly hard.
Hugely hard. Especially if you're worried about disappointing people or causing conflict, the guide offers some practical steps.
Like what?
First, clarify your priorities. Be fair to yourself, your needs matter too. Second, learn the skill of saying no with assurance.
How do you do that, assuredly?
Techniques like the broken record, calmly repeating your no without getting sidetracked into arguments. Also making it easier for the other person. Appreciate being asked. Maybe acknowledge their need. Give a clear, brief reason if appropriate, but stick to your no.
That sounds like a learnable skill. What about handling tricky moments like criticism or confrontation?
Yeah, these are major triggers. Criticism can feel like confirmation of those deep negative beliefs. Confrontation is scary. The guide offers rules of fair fighting.
Fair fighting.
Yeah, things like keep to the point, don't bring up old issues, cut out extremist words like always and never, and know when to take a break to calm down if things get too heated.
That's good advice for anyone, really. Now, what about the legacy of being bullied? That sounds like a really significant area.
It really is. Bullying can leave deep scars, often showing up later as that harsh, internal, critical voice.
The voice that echoes the bully.
Often, yes. The source strongly advises identifying that voice, recognizing its typical put-downs, and internalizing the message that your worth is never determined by what others think of you, especially not a bully. Building a supportive network, a system of support, is also vital to counter those feelings of isolation.
That's incredibly important work. Finally, the guide mentions relaxation. It's presented as a skill to be learned.
Yes, not just something you either have or don't. Relaxation is an attitude, a physical skill you can practice, and something restorative.
What kind of techniques?
It mentions progressive muscular relaxation, tensing, and then releasing different muscle groups to learn the difference and release tension. Also, diaphragmatic breathing, that slow, deep belly breathing, which calms the nervous system.
So it's about practice.
Definitely. And integrating it into a generally more relaxed lifestyle. Things like adopting a relaxed posture consciously, trying not to rush everywhere, and actively planning enjoyable, calming activities to offset the drain of anxiety.
This has been, wow, such a comprehensive deep dive. Really
Yeah.
understanding those vicious cycles feels like the absolute key to starting to dismantle them.
Absolutely. And the journey, as the guide suggests, isn't about becoming some perfect, fearless social butterfly according to rigid rules. No, it's about experimenting, finding what works for you, learning to be yourself in a way that feels right and builds genuine, lasting confidence over time. It's an ongoing process of discovery.
That's a really empowering way to frame it, learning to be yourself in a way that feels right. So maybe a final thought for you listening. What's one small mini experiment, as the guide calls it, that you could try this week? Just one tiny step to shift your perspective or behavior and start that journey toward a social life that feels more comfortable for you. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.